Hello and welcome to another episode, or maybe this is your first episode of Rewilding Voices with me, Jane McDowell. Now, this is the podcast where I get to speak to wonderful people who are doing fantastic things in the world, helping us all to live better lives, whether that's our own health and well-being, whether it's helping people around us, or on a more global scale. And today, well, I am wildly excited and delighted to have my very good friend, Amy Oldfield, on. Amy, tell us a bit about what you do.
Amazing. Thank you, Jane. So excited to be on the show. Yeah, as you said, I'm Amy Oldfield. I'm a online health and fitness coach. I've been knocking around in this industry for 12 years now, which has been an absolute joy. And mainly what I focus on in my work is helping women in their 40s who feel uncomfortable in their body. So obviously when we get 40 and over, things really start to change. So I help them to fit back in their clothes again, lose body fat, and increase their energy. And I do that mainly with a combo of mindset coaching, strength training, and pro metabolic nutrition. So, in a nutshell, that's me.
Yes, and what a great job you do. And I can speak from my own personal experience. So, the reason I asked Amy onto the show today is because a couple of weeks ago, I was browsing through social media as you do, and I've been bombarded with unsolicited messages about the Himalayan pink salt trick to lose weight. And, I am human and I also sometimes will look for the easy way out. We all want that silver bullet, don't we? So I thought, maybe I should just investigate this and, give myself a break from, thinking about what I need to do for myself. So I looked at a few posts and then I stumbled across this post that said, "Hey, watch this video and I will give you the four ingredients that you need." Well, needless to say, the video was about 25 minutes long. Oprah Winfrey suddenly appeared on a podcast that she was having with some doctor. And the whole thing turned into be like a selling platform for some weird and wonderful supplement in a bottle, of which you could get 3 months free, but really you needed 6 months supply to get the results you wanted. Even though this started off by saying you'll shed pounds in just a few weeks. So something in me thought this doesn't smell right. So I looked at the video. It looked kind of a bit wonky, but the sound was perfect. People's hand gestures didn't match what they were saying, and Anyway, long story short, I had to dig around on the internet. Oprah Winfrey has nothing to do with this product, and it just got me thinking how many people are being drawn into this kind of quick fix scenario that we're given, and it happens all the time. I was just thinking back the other day, Amy, about, all the kind of fads that we're presented with that are supposed to make us lean and healthy. I remember like the F-plan diet, the Atkins, no carbs before marbs kind of thing, And so I wanted to get you on here, Amy, just to bust some of these myths and tell us once and for all, is there a silver bullet that's out there that we can all take that's not Ozempic or Manjaro that leave us with nasty side effects?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jane. There is no good news here. The silver bullet does not exist.
I thought so. So tell me, what myths are currently around that that you can categorically tell us why they won't work for us?
Gosh, there's so many, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to the situation that you found yourself in the other day, and that so many women find themselves in
Yeah.
when we're presented with these online ads. I see a lot of them. I see a lot of weight loss teas. Have you
Yeah.
seen those? You've seen the weight loss salt. And it can feel really attractive, can't it? Especially when you've tried a lot of things, you've had a few stops and starts and failed attempts, and it just feels like a lot of work to do it the quote unquote right way. And it can be really attractive to
Yeah,
shell out money on all of these quick
yeah.
fixes. So,
I think
yeah,
also, just jumping in a little bit, that we're sold these solutions and we might try them for a while and we might see some benefits. We might lose a bit of weight, for example. Like if you cut out your carbs, you might over a week or so recognize that you're, fitting into your jeans better. But then, hey, a few weeks later and it's gone back to how it was before or even worse. And so then you're looking for the next trick. Well, that didn't work for me, so I'll try this one. So, yeah,
yeah, and it's like, how do we start to judge success? Is
exactly.
success what happened over 4 weeks, or is it what happened over 2 years?
Yeah,
Because some of these things that you can buy, they may have some kind of quick benefit, whether that be, I don't know, maybe sleeping better, or you've got more energy, or you might find like your jeans are a little bit looser. But 6 months down the line, is that still working? Or,
mm,
are you on to the next thing, like you say? So let's dive into some of the big myths that are out there.
yeah,
And I will openly say that you can probably do your research and find other experts who will sit there and say, these aren't myths, they're facts. But I'm going to speak what I believe and what I see in the people that I work with, and that's carbs.
yes, yeah,
That carbs make you fat, and if you want to lose weight, you need to reduce your carbs.
yeah. Before we go into this, Amy, please can you explain to people exactly what carbs are? Because when I first heard this whole myth about, oh, just cut out your carbs before you want to go on holiday, to me, carbs were bread, potatoes, and pasta. That's what I thought carbs were. So please can you explain what carbs actually are, what they look like?
Yeah, good question. Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm not eating carbs,"
Yeah.
but they're still eating carbs from all the other places. They're just not eating bread. Yeah. So I guess, first of all, just need to say that carbs is short for carbohydrates, just in case, that word is confusing anyone. Let's just get that ironed out. So carbohydrates are going to entail everything from bread and pasta and potatoes to every single vegetable to every single fruit and fruit juice to table sugar. And of course, you've got things like cake and chocolate and biscuits, which people will often call carbs, but they usually have more fat in them
Mm,
than carbs.
mm,
So people might say they've cut out their carbs, but have they actually cut out their fat if they're talking about cutting out cake and chocolate?
yeah.
So yeah, it is confusing. There are some grey areas, but the low carb community, there's a lot of noise around it, particularly for women over 40. And I think it can really start to create an unhealthy relationship with food, like putting foods into good and
Mm,
bad camps.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that for a lot of women, and I speak from my own experience, that over time we build up this feeling of guilt around food, whether we see it as good or bad food. There are some days where we just think, well, I've eaten X, Y, and Z, even though it's good for me, I've probably eaten too much, and so that's a bad thing. So this whole kind of guilt complex around food really isn't helpful. And it wasn't until I worked with you, Amy, that I was able to view food in a very different way and now got a very different relationship with it, thanks to you.
Yeah, and you start to realize that carbohydrates are your body's preferred fuel source. Now, you might have some level of understanding that carbs aren't essential because we can create our own in the body, but that doesn't mean that it makes sense not to eat them. We're not cavemen in survival mode anymore. So we need carbohydrates to fuel our body, to fuel our training, so that we can build muscle, so that we have energy, so that we can have good sleep. But as you say, we start to build this weird relationship with it. And it reminds me of conversations having with one of my clients just recently. We create these weird rules for ourselves about what foods are acceptable and what foods aren't. So I've been working with this client for about 4 to 6 weeks. She's getting amazing results. She feels so much better. She's getting stronger, like she feels new muscle tone all over her body that she's never had before. Her waist getting smaller. And she's like, I just don't get it. Like, I'm eating all of these potatoes that I feel I shouldn't. And then I looked through her diary and there was quite a lot of wine in there. And she'd created this rule for herself that wine was okay, but potatoes were not.
Yeah.
And I called her out on it and she had to laugh at herself because it's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's true, isn't it? My mum is very similar. She has these rules about, what's good for you, what's not good for you. But when it comes to things she really likes, then somehow they're good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, she drinks wine every day. She, not to excess, but every day as her adult life, she's had wine. So that's just part of, she sees it as a health benefit because it's got some antioxidants in it. We all come up with these stories to
We
justify what we
do.
do or we don't we? But it's about having the facts and then making a considered and informed decision and choice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And the weird rules that we create just go on and on. Like when it comes to fruits, I meet a lot of women who are kind of scared of carbs, who have put bananas in the can't have pot and berries in the can have pot because bananas are slightly higher in sugar. And honestly, it just goes on and on, these funny rules that we make for ourselves.
Yeah, and sugar is a form of carbohydrate, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So even table sugar, like the white stuff that we've all been told is killing us, you can have that in your diet and you'll be fine.
Mm. As long as
It's
it's
just
not
a
the only
carbohydrate.
thing, the only thing that you're eating.
Yeah, it's not going to give you much nutritional bang for your buck.
So for people who have been scared of eating carbs for years, like, since the whole no carbs before marbs, which I think came out of The Only Way is Essex, I think,
Yeah.
probably back at the beginning of the 2000s. What would you say is a way for those people to be able to get back into fueling their bodies correctly? Because I'm guessing that they might be feeling quite low on energy, or their mood might be a bit erratic. Maybe sleep isn't so great for them. What's what's the first step they can take to getting back on board with welcoming carbs into their body?
I think it's got to be slow, both from a physiological and psychological perspective. So, psychologically, you have to build that trust and confidence
Mm.
and reframing about carbs in your brain. But also physiologically, if you've not been eating carbs for quite a long time, and we all love to, go in headfirst to the next extreme, what you don't want to do is go from a low carb approach, maybe like under 100 grams a day, and suddenly start smashing 2 to 300 grams of carbs a day overnight because you're not going to experience the result that you want. And that will probably just reinforce the cycle that
Yeah,
carbs are bad for you because you may experience some blood sugar highs and lows from that. You may experience some additional weight on the scales because your body has to adapt to it. So I think that slow is best for both of those reasons, like to let you mentally adjust and let you physically adjust to it as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And what would you say to people who have for years now avoided those, bread, pasta, potatoes? Because they have, I assume, been eating some form of carbs, like you say, any vegetable or fruit they've eaten. Even dairy products have carbohydrates in, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think that they should do around reintroducing those things? Because I know a lot of people think that bread is an evil thing and that they're maybe gluten intolerant. And personally, I think that a lot of people, when they eat bread, I will put in inverted commas, have a reaction to it because they're eating really shit quality bread.
Mm.
So, what's your take on that?
So I think it's same again, go slow. And if you add in bread and pasta and potatoes all at once and you've not eaten them for months, and maybe you do have a reaction, you're not going to know which one of those foods it is.
Mm, mm,
So going slow on nature's carbs, like those are going to be the best first additions to add in. So experiment with a bit more fruit, experiment with a bit more vegetables, experiment with some root vegetables like potatoes. I mean, potatoes are actually one of my favorite carbs. I eat them probably every day, like some variety of potato. They're a super friendly food for anyone who wants to pursue fat loss because they're the most satiating
mm,
carbohydrates
mm.
that you can eat. So I love potatoes for so many reasons. So I would go like vegetables, then fruits and potatoes, and just like, see how your body feels. See if you enjoy eating that way. Do you have better energy? Are you sleeping better? Are you maybe getting leaner? And then, as you say, there's such a sliding scale of quality of bread. And I'm at the point now where I only really recommend to my clients that they eat a proper sourdough bread, like from a bakery,
Yeah,
which really should only have about four ingredients in, made in a traditional way,
yeah,
because
definitely.
you're going to get more health benefits from it.
Yeah,
It tastes absolutely delicious,
yeah,
by the way. And if you're kind of digesting it well and responding to it well, then that's a great food for you.
yeah, yeah. So what's your view on the sort of paleo? Because paleo, if I've got this right, you don't eat any grains. Is that right?
Yeah, so paleo is meant to mimic how our ancestors may have eaten. So there's lots of really great principles in the paleo way of eating because it's mostly just based on whole natural foods. So it's very good from that perspective, I think, but it is a bit lower on the carbohydrate side. As you say, no grains, and then a few other things which are kind of off limits with the paleo approach.
What
I
else would be off limits, Amy, with paleo?
So I think some fruits, maybe some vegetables. I can't confirm for sure, but it is generally lower carb and quite interesting. The CrossFit world, so like quite intense weight training, gymnastics, cardio, exercise, sport is really big on the paleo diet, which I've always found really confusing because to fuel that kind of training, you're going to need a good level of carbohydrate. So I
Mm,
think it's the weirdest pairing of nutrition and exercise.
yeah.
And
Do
so
you
I
think that, sorry, Amy, do you think that is because CrossFit appeals more to younger people? So people maybe below 30 or 35?
well,
Because
the concept of CrossFit is meant to be that even your grandma can do it.
yeah, but I never see videos of any grandmas doing CrossFit.
You
I
can
guess there
find
must
them.
be
You can
some.
find them. But yeah, you're right. Like the average CrossFit box is going to be like 30s and unders. But the concept is that it's from everyone to a college age guy to your grandma because
Yeah.
it's scalable. And so my point here is that I then see a lot of women come into my world that are doing quite intense training coupled with a low carb diet, and then wondering why they can't sleep through the night. They're having energy crashes in the afternoon. They still have fat they can't lose. And despite pushing themselves really hard, they don't have a lot of muscle. And
Yeah.
that's because carbs are essentially the answer to all of those problems when consumed in the right way.
Yeah. So, Amy, can you tell us a bit more about, because obviously the all the advertising that I was talking about before is all aimed at perimenopause or menopausal women who have developed this belly fat from nowhere, and we're all really frustrated about it. So, can you explain how or why, when we get to that stage in our life, we become more prone to putting on that belly fat, and what we can do to maybe address that in a different
Mm.
way rather than, going and tiring yourself out doing loads of cardio?
This is $1 million question, isn't it, Jane?
It is.
And I'm going to start answering that by explaining how sneaky fat gain can be at 40 and over, and that it's not just an inevitable part of getting older or something that just happens because your hormones are changing.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you think about the typical symptoms a woman is experiencing as she starts to enter menopause, it's the broken sleep,
Yeah,
it's the brain fog, it's the lower confidence, increased anxiety, erratic energy, and all of those things combined together then will cause you to move less without knowing it.
yeah,
And that might look like you just start getting in the car a bit more than walking places. It might mean that because you're not sleeping as well, you're craving more food, or your stress levels are so high that you're then drinking more alcohol. But all of these are so, so subtle. You won't
yeah,
even notice it. And it's all those little bits and pieces that have changed in your lifestyle as a result of like the shifts in your mood and your thinking, your confidence and your energy that then translate into the weight gain. It's not that it's just happened without you doing anything differently,
yeah,
even though I sympathize that it definitely does feel that way. And that's what a lot of women say to me, like, I haven't changed anything. Now I can't fit in any of my clothes, and my weight's just going up, and what I used to doesn't work anymore. It's
mm,
those subtle, sneaky changes. So that is going on somewhat. So it's creating awareness of those habits that can make a massive change.
yeah,
So I'm a big fan of walking more, like probably my favorite belly busting exercise, walking more for so many reasons. It's
mhm,
great. Very hormone balancing because you're moving, because you're getting out in sunlight, because you're elevating your mood. And then, like the stress, for example, that can be linked to cravings that then result in maybe eating more chocolate, drinking more wine. It's having awareness of that
yeah, yeah,
and what can be done there. It's addressing so many little lifestyle habits that can make a big difference in the menopausal time of life. And of course, we can't ignore that there are some changes that are going to go on with your hormones because that's the
oh,
natural progression.
yeah. Aren't they
And
just?
that
Yeah.
you are gonna have your body's more inclined to shift from storing fat maybe on your arms and your butt and your legs onto your belly instead. So then you experience that shape change that may or may not even be reflected on the scales.
Yeah.
And so many women say to me that their scale weight hasn't changed, but their shape has. And I'll tell you something that's going on here is that if you have not prioritized weight training in your exercise regime before 40, you're in a catabolic state where you're now losing muscle, but you're not giving your body the signal to either preserve muscle mass or add muscle mass. And your muscle is your metabolic fuel.
Mm,
So, this can be one of the reasons why women feel like they haven't done anything differently, but they're gaining weight because, or gaining fat, should I say, like the shape is changing because you've lost muscle. So now you're working with a lower metabolic rate. So your shape looks different. And now on the scale, although that may not have changed, you have less muscle, but more fat.
And your clothes don't fit properly.
And your clothes don't
Yeah,
fit, which is
so
the
annoying.
worst bit of all.
Yes, it's so annoying. Anyway, so a lot of women, and I did this myself, think, okay, well, my belly's just somehow got enormous. Or, it might not be enormous, but it's bigger than we're used to. So, okay, I'm going to go and do some exercise. Now, for me, I went off and I did loads of boxing because I really enjoyed it. And in my younger days, whenever I went to do some exercise like that, I did karate a lot before and did, loads of aerobic exercises and exercise classes. And I always just, got back into shape really easily whenever I did that. And when I started going boxing, when this belly appeared, well, it got bigger. Can you explain to people why that would happen?
Well, the most common answer to that is you're doing exercise which increases stress hormones such as cortisol, and cortisol adds fat to your belly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of true, but it's not the whole story
Mm-hmm.
because you can have extremely high stress hormones and still be very lean.
Yeah.
So, what I think is actually going on here is it's the other lifestyle pieces. You aren't aware that your lifestyle choices are putting you into a calorie surplus. And that's why you're gaining fat. And the increase in cortisol may not be helping you in that extra fat as a result of the calorie surplus may be preferentially going to your belly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not just stress and cortisol that causes you to gain weight in the absence of a calorie surplus.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that as a result of all of that exercise, you're now a bit hungrier. So you're eating more. It
Mm-hmm.
could be because you feel like, wow, I've just done like a 45-minute really intense boxing workout. Now I don't need to move for the rest of the day. So now you're moving less.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sneaky.
Or I can have that cream cake because I just did that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's sneaky. You won't realize. And there's things like your NEAT. So your NEAT stands for non-exercise associated thermogenesis. It's the energy that we use up in movement that we're not aware of. It's like the fidgeting in your chair, it's moving your hands when you talk, it's blinking your eyes, all this kind of thing.
Even blinking your eyes. Wow. I have to blink more.
And in some people, this will really slow down when they're depleted and when they're low in energy as a way for your body to conserve energy. But you don't really have control over that. Some people just kind of like they move a lot, and
Yeah.
other people are very still,
Yeah. Yeah.
move very slowly. You'll
So
often
that's
see
not a personality thing. That is a bodily function thing.
it is a personality thing, but what you might find is the people that fidget and move more tend to be a bit leaner
Mm.
because they're naturally using more energy in through
Yeah.
their needs.
And does that not, I guess maybe in some cases, that extra fidgeting comes from having a nervous disposition and being stressed, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, like increased cortisol and adrenaline can definitely cause that fidgetiness, which that completely debunks the myth that cortisol makes you fat, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Cortisol and adrenaline, like they're actually very fat burning. They release fats.
So
But
what
in
is
a
it that
calorie
stops?
surplus, they will
Yeah.
add fats.
Okay, that's good
Yeah.
to know. So what is it that stops that fat burning mechanism in our bodies?
Stops the fat burning mechanism.
Yeah. Is there anything?
So, as in, how can you start to lose fat
No, I
instead?
mean, what causes us to stop burning calories in the same amount of way, in the same way that we might have done previously?
Yeah, cool. So, when we have enough fuel. So let me give you an example of maybe like a typical mid-40s woman who has done, let's say, six, seven, or eight diets throughout her life, which sounds
Yeah,
like a lot, but honestly, the stats are even higher than that on
I'm
average.
sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
Your math diets a woman has done. Every time she goes through that cycle of losing fat, her metabolic rate will decline a little bit. So two women that are the same weight, but say woman A is that weight, but she's never dieted, versus her friend who has done six to eight diets, but she's the same weight, she will have a lower metabolic rate than her
Mm,
friend. Because every time you go through this cycle of losing and gaining, your metabolic rate starts to decline. And so that means that you don't really have to eat much food to then put yourself into a calorie surplus. So then the older you get, it feels like it becomes so easy to gain fat.
mm.
One like weekend away, and all of a sudden you feel like you've ballooned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I remember when we first started working together, I think you worked out my average daily calorie intake was on like 1,100 calories. And
Yeah,
basically, you said that my metabolism had kind of just like dialed down so much. So
yeah.
your solution for me was to start eating way more food. And I was like, whoa. Obviously, we did it gradually, but the difference in my energy and my ability to sleep, oh my goodness, because I was at a place where, well, I barely slept at all. And yeah, it was really quite distressing. Yeah, to not have that sleep, to not have the energy, to suddenly have this kind of belly that I didn't want. And yeah, it was, and everything else changing, and you go through the menopause. It's like the whole topography and the climate of your body changes. It's like climate change on a body on a body level. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, working with you was so helpful because it helped balance things out again and make me feel a bit more like me again. So yeah,
Yeah, you were definitely working with a degree of what we call metabolic adaptation. The metabolism is very flexible. It will just adapt to whatever demands you put upon it and then start to switch off non-essential things. So if you think of your mobile phone that starts the day fully charged and then it starts to lose its charge and then it goes, oh, do you want to go into power save mode? Yes,
yeah,
please. Power save mode on. And then it just starts switching off apps that it doesn't need
yeah,
so the phone can keep going.
yeah,
It's the same in your body. So it's like, do we need energy? Probably not. Let's turn that off. In my case, when I was struggling, do we need a menstrual cycle? No, let's turn that off.
yeah, yeah,
Do we
yeah,
need to sleep? No, let's turn that off.
yeah, yeah. It's horrible, isn't it? Anyway.
But the
So
magic is we can turn it all back on.
yeah. There is another question I want to ask you around myth busting. Is that, for years, especially as I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, fat was just like a big no-no. No, no, no. You have to avoid fat at any cost if you're a woman. Can you tell us why fat isn't this bad, bad thing? Or is
Yeah.
it a bad, bad thing? Tell us.
Well, it can be in some cases, for sure. I think all of the macros have been demonized at some point. So you've got three key macros. You've got your proteins, you've got your carbohydrates, and you've got your fats. And there's people that will tell you all of them are bad for one reason or another, but we
Yeah.
can't just live on dust. And
That carbohydrate.
I think dust is a carb if we were going to categorize it. Um, so yeah, like we go through phases, don't we, in the trends of the nutrition world about which one is on or off plan at any one time, and fat has definitely had its moments where we were all told to avoid it, but it's so important, especially for women, because your hormones need fat. And that doesn't mean that we then need to start eating a high fat diet. Like everything needs to be consumed in the right amount for your body.
Hmm.
But super high fat diets, not great. Super low fat diets, not great either. Like we need that Goldilocks effect.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
somewhere in the middle.
Is there oh, it does depend on each person. Is there a kind of a range of, what percentage of what we eat should be fat per day, or, how should we approach it? And how do we get through the whole conundrum of saturated, unsaturated, polysaturated, and all that kind of caper?
Mm. So your fat needs will depend on your activity level and what your body responds well to. But if I'm working out a client's calorie and macro needs, I will sit them somewhere between 20% fat and 35% fat, with the more active, leaner woman being more towards the 20%, and the less active, slightly heavier woman leaning more towards the 35%, especially if she's not managing carbohydrates well at that time. But generally, what I find
Surprising.
is that I am bringing people's fat down, but to a good level for them. So it's that Goldilocks effect.
Mm,
Because
mm.
most women are coming to me carb phobic. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
they're eating all the fat in place of carbs. And so we're just readjusting that balance. So
yeah,
yeah, I like somewhere between 20% and 35% of total calories coming from your fat.
yeah.
And I'm a big fan of saturated fats. So you mentioned the three different types of fats that we have. We've got saturated, and then we have unsaturated fats. And unsaturated fats can be separated into polyunsaturated and monounsaturated.
Okay.
My favorite type of fat is saturated fat. So I will have a lot of my clients getting the majority of their fats from dairy and coconut oil, butter, good quality animal meats. And those are very stable fats. So you can heat them and they remain really stable. They're really easy to
Yeah.
digest, very supportive in the body, very supportive of the thyroid, so it can increase your metabolic rate. Also makes food taste delicious.
Mm.
And then you've got mono and polyunsaturated fats. With polyunsaturated fats probably being my least favorite because they're very unstable when exposed to light and heat. So polyunsaturated fats are things like nuts and seeds, a lot of seed oils,
Mm.
oily fishes. So that might raise your eyebrows because you'll be thinking, well, I thought these were the healthy fats that we were
Yeah,
meant
fat seed, fish
focusing
oil. Mm.
on. Because they're so unstable when exposed to cooking, even the temperature of digesting them in your body as they heat up can become unstable,
Oh,
and light as well. So you then got monounsaturated fats, so olive oil, avocado oil, and I'm a fan of these as well in moderation.
yeah,
So we don't need to demonize any of them completely. They all have a place, but I definitely see more health benefits coming from saturated fats, which is not the mainstream view on fats.
yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate.
Quick question for you, Amy. Another myth buster or confirming. I've heard that coconut oil is supposed to be really good for busting your belly fat. Is this correct?
I think in the context of a well-managed nutrition plan,
Yeah,
exercise plan, and lifestyle, 100%.
yeah.
I actually encourage all of my clients to consume coconut oil every day. So I guess the answer to that question is yes.
Hmm.
It can also be super helpful for so many other things. If I ever have any like ailments going on with my skin or my hair or my gut, like answer is always coconut oil.
Yeah. I use coconut oil on my face. I don't use moisturizers or whatever. I just run coconut oil on it because I think that whatever you put on your skin, you should also be able to put in your mouth and digest. Because if you can't, then don't touch it. That's just my personal view. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is protein, because I hear so many contradictory things about protein. People are saying, oh, if you eat too much protein, your kidneys are going to pack up. We don't need the amount of protein that's being put out there. Tell us, what are your thoughts on protein?
And how could we not talk about protein?
Exactly.
We busted the carb myth, we busted the fat. Now we have to bust the protein because, like I said, we can't just live on dust.
Yeah,
So, like you will see both sides of the stories. People who are pushing like super high protein and people that are pushing really low protein with studies to back up all of them. But of course, you can cherry pick the study that you want to support whatever your bias is.
yeah.
So I'm definitely more on the end of protein is really important for us. We don't need to eat an excessive amount.
What would an excessive amount look like?
So when I'm setting up a nutrition plan for my clients, I will take their body weight. So I work in kilos. So let's say a particular woman weighs 70 kilos. And depending on her level of exercise and her goals, I will calculate her protein somewhere between 1.6 and 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight.
Okay,
And if she has quite a big weight loss goal, I will calculate that based on her goal body weight.
right. Okay. So if she
Um,
wants to get to 60 kilos, I don't know if that's healthy or not, but if she wanted to get to 60 and she's at 70, then you calculate 2.2 per
Yeah,
kilo
somewhere
to
between
60
1.6
kilos.
and 2.2. So if we
Yeah,
want to do just some simple math for the sake of this conversation, we can do 60 kilos times two, which would be
okay,
120 grams.
great.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
But I would say an excessive amount, and not because it would be bad for you, just because it's incredibly hard to achieve, would be anywhere above 160 grams of protein. I
yeah,
don't know many women that would be able to eat that much protein
yeah,
physically and also enjoy that way of eating as well. So
yeah,
I have
yeah,
an upper end of 160 grams, really.
yeah, yeah,
If you look at studies, they've had people eat as much as 4 grams of protein per kilo of their body weight, and they're absolutely fine.
yeah. Cool. Well, that's busted that myth. Thank you.
Done.
Well, Amy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope that what you shared with us all will help to give us a more balanced view of how we can look after ourselves naturally. Because I think with the introduction of all these weight loss drugs, which, I think can be really helpful for people who are in a really problematic situation with their weight and their health, I don't think that they should be used by everybody just because they want to lose a couple of dress sizes for a holiday or whatever. Before we go, can you just give us your opinion or take or understanding on the longer term effects of using those weight loss drugs?
Well, I think the challenge is that we don't know the long-term effects just yet.
Mm,
We can see that there are some gut implications with it on a sort of short to medium term basis. My concern on a longer term basis is that it's just going to be another fad diet,
mm.
but it's just delivered in an injection.
Yeah, so it's more of a sticking plaster rather than getting to the root cause of why you've put on weight or why you're carrying around weight.
Yeah, and I think they haven't even been popular for that long. And I'm already working with women who have already lost a significant amount of weight through Ozempic or any other brands and have regained it and more. And now they've come to me and they want a different way of doing it.
So when they stopped taking it, then it just went back to how it was or
Yes.
worse. Yeah.
And I'm seeing people that have done that cycle twice.
Oh, wow.
So it's yeah, scary.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? And
It's
also, it's
scary.
quite expensive from what I can gather.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd
It's
say
just another fad
probably
diet.
working with you is cheaper than going to one of those injection solutions.
It is because this is all about the rest of your life. Like we
Yeah,
said before, success isn't what happens in 4 weeks, it's what happens in 12 months, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years.
yeah, exactly. And I
And what
think,
I'm seeing is that as soon as women are coming off them, either because they can't afford it anymore or because the doctor takes them off,
yeah.
they're regaining the weight
Yeah,
after.
yeah. I think that's so important just to end on this thought that we all kind of get wrapped up in, oh, I've got a wedding to go to, or Christmas is coming up, or I'm going on holiday and I'd like to, drop a couple of dress sizes. And it's all such short-term view, isn't it? But when we look into the future and we see ourselves as 80, 90 years old, what do we want to feel like when we're that age? How fit and healthy do we see ourselves as being? Because that journey starts now. We don't get to 80 years old and be miraculously sprightly and fit and healthy. It's because you've lived that life for years up to it. So I think that personally speaking, I think if you've got an event coming up and you're not very happy with your body, well, just learn to love your body and think, well, this is how I am today. In the future, I might look different if I commit to just spending some thought and energy on focusing on how I want to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And on the topic of being 90 and what you want to be like when you're at that age, client of mine this morning, she sent me a video of a woman who was 90, had arthritis, and she was deadlifting 100 kilos in the gym.
Yeah.
What
That's giving
is
me goosebumps.
like, and if that's not inspiring, I don't know what it is, because
Yeah,
I want that to be me.
me too. Yeah, I want it to be you, Amy, and I want it to be me. And I'll get there first, so I'll let you know how it is. Anyway, my love, it's absolutely delightful to have you on the show, and I will put all your contact details in the show notes for anyone who's watching or listening and would like to know more about Amy's work. You can delve into that. And thank you once again, Amy.
Thanks, Jane. It's been fun.
Take care. Lots of love.